Well, good morning from the Kimberleys. Here we are this morning at Mount Elizabeth Station. We're just having a one-nighter here. We've sort of a little bit early. A couple of the gorges that normally are open aren't open this year. So we're going to take the opportunity to do a little Photoshop session with Carlisle this morning. And then from here we slip through to Mount Barnett, which is not that far down the road, for a bit of an afternoon R&R, and then tomorrow we'll walk into Manning Gorge. So look, it's just another stunning morning in the Kimberleys. Guys, we hope you're enjoying the episode so far. We're certainly enjoying putting them together. We've got a pretty good bunch of guys with us, so it's all nestling along. We're like about halfway through. So it was just a nice bit of a debrief around the fire last night. But we're having a ball, having an absolute hoot. And why wouldn't you? All right, we'll catch up with you guys later in the day. Cheers. I guess there is a risk you take if you come early in the season. It's actually a double-edged sword. You want to see water going over the waterfalls, but this sometimes means there's water across the road, as was the case at Mount Elizabeth, and we were unable to gain access to the Manning Gorge. We were here in 2016, so I've dropped a bit of footage of the place from then. It's a good four-wheel drive track to the gorge, around 12 kilometres from memory, and it's about 1 or 1.5 k's of walking. From the top of the gorge there is a series of ladders that give you access to the bottom of the gorge with a sandy beach as your reward. As we were not far from our next destination, we took advantage of the free time this morning and were treated to a workshop using Photoshop. Carlisle took one of the photos from yesterday's crossing and we worked through the workflow of what you can and can't do in the post-production process. Here's a couple of takeouts for me. Take that little extra time when taking the photo. Vary your camera settings. A click here, an f-stop there can make the difference between a good photo and a great photo. And the most important one, you can't fix focus in post. Thanks for that, CR.
But it's sort of like changing the ISO.
Do you look at the histogram and try and see what do you anyway judge from your histogram?
Well, we can see here that there's barely any blacks and there's nothing in the whites.
After packing up, we had a sausage sizzle, then made our way to Mount Barnett, where we would spend the next couple of days. On the way back to the main road, there were several small creek crossings. At this one, there was a couple of egrets feeding. After a short stop at the roadhouse to refuel, we make our way to our campsite at the Mount Barnett campground. Holy moly, the place was packed. We ended up nearly a kilometre from the amenities block and the access track to Manning Gorge. Luckily, we squeezed in around other campers and they were great. We were unaware that there was a long weekend in WA, so we now know where all the locals spend their long weekends. The positive to all this was that we had river access for a swim about 100 metres away. We were treated to this beautiful sunrise this morning before we headed down for breakfast of scrambled eggs, cheese and bacon. And to round out our breakfast, given we didn't have to drive anywhere today, washed it down with a pina colada. Well, that's different. To get you and your gear across the river these days entails bagging your gear up into dry bags, then floating them across in half-cut plastic drums. It's supposed to be a dry bag, so we're about to do a product test. Just after the halfway point of the crossing, the water is quite deep and required you to swim the last section.
Product test, just dunked it.
Once there, we just dried off, changed clothes and prepared ourselves for the 3 and a bit kilometre walk into Manning Gorge. The trail follows a route overland rather than along the creek, with views over the ranges and savanna woodlands along the way. It's a well-marked trail that goes over broken rocky terrain, with some climbing and scrambling at the end. The trail is mostly unshaded, so it's important to wear a hat and take plenty of drinking water. Making my addition to the can. The reward for effort is a magnificent swim in a massive and gorgeous waterfall-fed pool. Carlisle carried a cooler bag with cold drinks and snacks, including some beers and the bottle of pina colada he made for breakfast. Whilst you have water flowing to the gorge for most of the tourist season, they are at their best between May and July.
We are at Manning Gorge. It is beautiful. An hour walk in, it's all good.
We had a great swim and rested on the warm rocks while chatting to a guy that follows the channel. So if you do see us out and about, make sure you say g'day. We'd love to catch up. And just like that, it was time to make our way back to camp. After climbing up some of the rocks back to the trail, we came across some examples of Bradshaw and Winjana rock art.
You have a phantom.
Oh, I've got a climb. Oh, it's a big one.
Man.
You weren't supposed to do that.
Come back and do it again properly.
When we got back to the creek, it was time to get changed, back into our bathers, then swim across with all our gear. Rick had started cooking hamburgers for lunch, which we had between bread with lettuce, tomato and cheese. Just what we needed after a big walk and swim. The night was spent around the campfire, where we shared stories and experiences of past trips. Yet another majestical sunrise in the Kimberley. Well, what a cracker. Manning Gorge. I reckon, for me, it is the pick of the gorges. And there's a couple of reasons. The main one being that, you know, you walk in, it's about an hour's walk, and there's a swim when you get there, which there is in most of the gorges. But with this one, when you walk out, there's the river. So
Another swim.
Another swim, yeah. So you get a chance to cool down. And that's probably one of the hardest things is when you walk into some of these other gorges. Is when you walk out that you're going back to a dusty campground. Anyway, for me, yeah, this is the pick. But so we had a lovely day here yesterday. The boys set up a base camp down near the day area to save us driving back, because there was just, never seen so many people in one place.
It is overfull.
Just overfull. It was just busting at the seams. We ended up, politely smuggling our way in amongst other people, and
it was 0.8 of a kilometre from the toilet block, which is the main base camp area.
So yeah, so that's about where we're at. So today we're going to head down to Bell's Gorge. We've got a short stop on the way at Gascoigne Gorge.
Galvin's.
Galvin's Gorge.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to stop in there and have a swim. That'll probably be, maybe morning tea stop, and then into to Bell's Gorge. And another day on the Gibb River Road.
Yes.
I mean, I knew that, but what's a 10-100?
Well, that's I guess just an American slang for having a wee.
Nah, that ain't American. Oh, it's gotta be. Okay, you're talking funky language, so like 1040 means yes, 1020 means what is your location? That's it.
Yeah, roger that one.
That's the Roger Dodger.
Good buddy, 10-4.
Roger Wilco.
So, as I said earlier, just another day on the Gibb River Road. Yeah, we're having a hoot. We really are having a hoot. So let's hope it all continues to go the way it's been going. See you soon. 14 kilometres west of Mount Barnett is Galvin's Gorge. This involves just a short walk around a kilometre to the waterfall and swimming hole, and is still located on the Mount Barnett station property. The walk is exceptional as you pass leafy palms and a tranquil water lily filled waterway to reach a reflective and inviting plunge pool. The pool is surrounded by abundant vegetation, framed by granite outcrops and fed by a multi-tiered waterfall. You can sit on the rocks directly beneath the falls and enjoy an invigorating back massage before hitting the trail to reach your next destination. This has to be one of the prettiest short walks in the Kimberley. If I could give one piece of advice for travelling on the Gibb River Road, apart from taking your time and enjoying the experience, it's to be seen to be safe. So turn on your lights. The number of vehicles we passed with no lights on was astounding. Don't be that guy. Oh, and this includes all gravel roads, I should add. Our next stop was Amici, meaning a place to sit down. This is a small Aboriginal community and was first settled in the 1950s. It was once an important rest point for bullock drivers on the Gibb River Road, and now a welcome stopover for Kimberley travellers. had a quick setup and then it was off to Bell's Gorge to spend the afternoon.
Yeah, Joko's just fording the crossing now.
Top of the waterfall, the only one that deep.
In the next episode, the Bacon Bear makes a surprise visit in time for breakfast. We visit Tunnel Creek, Winjana Gorge, and make our way to Busy Broom and our final night at the photography tag-along. So stay safe and don't let the dust settle.